Okay, I think that's it. It's live. So we'll be live on Get Moving Cambridge YouTube and Facebook, which is great. Hopefully, it's all working. Technology, you gotta love it sometimes. But Tracy and Chris, thank you both for spending your Monday evening with me on Facebook and YouTube. We're here to talk about Parkrun, which I know is a favourite topic of both of yours, mainly because you keep banging on about it. So hopefully you can help demystify what parkrun is for anybody who doesn't know what it is, and for anybody who's maybe thinking about going to join for the first time, we can answer some questions. So for anybody who has questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and hopefully we'll be able to pick them up as we go. But I'll kick off with the first one, and very simply, what is parkrun? What is it? What's it all about?
Chris, do you want to take this one?
So Parkrun is it started in about 2004 by a very small number of keen runners, including Paul Sinton Hewitt at Bushy Park in London. I think it was the 6th of October or early October anyway, that year. And it was just a group of people that went for a timed run every Saturday. It then suddenly grew, and by 2010, Cambridge Parkrun at Milton Country Park was the first in the local area to start at the end of January 2010. So that was my starting with Parkrun. There's lots and lots of events, not just across the UK, but across the world now. And millions of people take part every Saturday at 9 o'clock for this timed run. People register online for free, and it's an opportunity for people to just get a personal best, regardless of how quick or how slow you are there. And also it's an opportunity to volunteer as well if you don't want to run. So there's loads of opportunities to get involved, but it's a fantastic different type of activity to potentially what like a competitive race. So it's a really inclusive event for young families to take part in.
I think Chris has summed it up. Should we leave it there, Tracy?
No, I have to say, I love the use of his word inclusive. That's why I always use all the time. However, he missed out. What I do is I park chat. So
Park chat.
Oh, yeah,
yes, at the speed Chris runs, he can't cover everything he needs to cover in a run. Whereas if you take a little bit longer,
it's only about 12 minutes.
Exactly, I can put the world to rights in my time.
I have park chatted before, Jenny Payne and a few other people at Cambridge before, and it's been very nice to hear what the gossip is on a Saturday morning.
Chris, you called it an event. You didn't call it a race. You didn't call it anything. Let's go into that a little bit more. Like it because I think that's what makes parkrun so special, is that it's not a race.
So yeah, we don't have a winner. We have a first finisher, and it's an opportunity for everybody, regardless of what speed you are, to take part. Whether or not I remember at Cambridge, Jenny Parker's mum, Audrey, going around with a Zimmer frame. I think one of our oldest ever participants of the event quite a few years ago, and it was a fantastic opportunity. To see different people, regardless of people in different places of their journey, just to turn up on a Saturday morning. Don't have to register in advance, which you might have to do with certain races. So different people might use it as a training session. Some people might use it as a run. As Tracy said, there might be as an opportunity to have a chat and a real social event, maybe for people that are used to running on their own.
I like it because it means that, so I like running on my own as well, but actually on a Saturday morning, I'm not going to let people down. I'm going to get out there and do it. So I can plan some runs in the week on my own, and then I'll go and do parkrun with friends. And it's, as Chris said, it's the chance to be sociable and chat, to take some exercise, and sometimes to eat some cake or something afterwards as well.
It's all about the afterwards, I think. So Chris, you mentioned the kind of origins of parkrun. Parkrun was born in the UK, and if you go onto the website, the map of the UK is completely covered in parkrun pins. It's popular in other countries, but it's not quite to the same level as it is in the UK. Why do you think that is? Why is it so popular here?
That's a really good question. I'm not really 100% sure. I think the main reason is in the UK, it's become a bit of an obsession for some people. Almost, sometimes you go on holiday or go away in the UK, and the first thing you look for is where's the nearest parkrun. Sometimes if it's over a weekend, because it's an opportunity to sometimes run in places you're not usually allowed to go in, which can be the case in certain places, or you'd have to previously pay a lot of money to sometimes run around different, wildlife or trust places. So it's a great opportunity sometimes for people to explore new areas, maybe around the world. It might be just taking some time, and it's almost needs events to bring more people, because like Cambridge Parkrun, I think has set up something like 5 or 6 different parkruns at least since there, because when people are interested in the event and they get a passion for it, they might take that and set up one. Like Huntingdon was set up, I think, from people who came to Cambridge Parkrun originally, and then it spreads from there and actually becomes almost like a dare I say, like a pandemic of parkrun start, because
I'm sure we can think of a
spreads,
better word.
it spreads just like it is infectious, the way that people actually want to take part and have it in their own community.
I think he's right. It's exponential growth, isn't it? Because you have, say, 4 people doing a park run, and they'll each tell 4 people, but then those 8 people the next week will tell 8 people, and so the other countries are all much newer, and some countries, it's harder. In Scotland, the park run starts at half an hour later because it's darker. There are some countries where they start much earlier because it's much hotter. But equally, if you've Parkrun's been going for 22 years in this country. If you go to Poland, I've run in Krakow, and it's only been going, I think, sort of 10 years or something. So it is much smaller. But as more people discover that it can be a lot of things for different people, depending on what you want it to be, I think they'll start to grow. And I think at the moment, people are really valuing the exercise, the time outside, the health and well-being benefits of it. And I think that will help its growth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note of parkrun tourism, you mentioned Krakow. Where's the most remote or best or most exotic parkrun that you've done?
Me, I've been to one in Canada as well, but the best parkrun is the one I'm doing at the time, because every time I go there, I can tell you all the good. I love Wimpole around here because the beautiful scenery. I love Storiesfield in Eddington because it's dry underfoot at the moment, which is a novelty. I love Huntingdon, looking at all the lakes and everything. They're all different, but when I'm there, I'm feeling like I'm at the right place.
Oh, that's nice. What about you, Chris?
I think sometimes, I think Tracy's right. One thing I've learned over the years is actually to try and take in the actual park run you go to, even because sometimes it's quite easy just to run and try and run as quickly as you can or whatever you're trying to do, and actually not taking any surroundings. And park run, it doesn't really matter exactly on your time. So sometimes it's quite nice to actually, when I last went to, say, Wimpole, I'd have a look at the hall, actually recognise, because the first couple of times I went there, I probably didn't even know when or where I went past it at any point. So I do try and make an effort to take in what's around, where maybe in the early park runs, and some events that don't even maybe exist anymore, those type of ones. But it's a fantastic time to see those new places.
And you've both done how many parkruns in your 300s? Is that?
Yeah,
300 and something.
Yes, early 300s, yeah.
Which is bonkers. So let's talk a bit about starting parkrun. If somebody's never ever done a parkrun before, what do they need to do to start with? Tracy, take this one.
Well, generally speaking, what I always suggest to people if they're really nervous is to just go along the first week and watch. And when you look, that's what I used to take my son along. And I thought, I won't be the fastest, I won't be the slowest, I won't be the wobbliest, I won't be the whatever it was. I suddenly thought, actually, do you know what? There's someone, this is somewhere I could fit in quite easily. And that was what gave me the bravery to put on some lycra and go out and do it. But all they need to do is, if they register online beforehand, they can get their own barcode, which they can print off, or they get a picture on their phone, and that's just their unique identifier number. And then when they go to Parkrun, very good.
Oh, look at that!
Look at that! Look at the tech. Then when they go to Parkrun, the way it works is as you cross the finish line, you will be given a finish token, and that is what they've clicked that matches. And then when you scan your personal barcode and the finish token, they go together in the results, and then you can see what time you went. But if you don't have your barcode, or you don't want to get a time, want your name up there or something like this, you just turn up and run. You don't have to have your barcode with you. Anyone that's just walking past the start can start and say, right, I'm going to join in with this lot and go.
Yeah, so you got your barcode, and that's normally mad scramble Saturday morning going, "Where's the barcode?" And you
But
got your
now you can
barcode.
keep it on your phone. That's
You
really
can.
helpful.
This is the
And
newest thing, isn't it? You
And I've
can
learned
now have it
actually
on
you
your
can
phone.
keep it on your Garmin now as well. So I've actually on my Garmin, I've got my Parkrun barcode, which you just download on Garmin. So I haven't.
I did
I've
not
tried
know
it on
that.
my own self, but I haven't actually tried it at an event yet. But I've tested it on the Parkrun scanning app, and it does seem to work. So
Right, Chris. So I used to laminate barcodes in the old days at
yeah,
Cambridge, so they survived in the rain. I think you should run a technical surgery because I don't know how to do that, but I know what my number is. So I've got a watch. I've got a watch. You could just sort it out for me.
yeah, absolutely. So if for those of you listening and want to download that, if you're a Parkrun regular, it's on the Garmin Connect, on the apps, things you can download. If you just type Parkrun in, there's a little Parkrun thing, an extension you can put into
Oh,
to your watch, and then it just comes up, which is fantastic. So I haven't tried it in an event yet, but I have used the volunteer app on the phone to test it. So I didn't want to be going there without a barcode, but I'll still take probably the paper one. It's just as a backup.
just in case. Oh, I did not know that. That is cool. So
It's
yeah,
very exciting.
you've done your run. You get your handed your finisher token as you cross the line. You've got your barcode, and then you go to one of the volunteers, and they scan both of those things, and then what? An hour to a couple of hours later, your results get miraculously sent to you,
It's
and
just magic.
it's so magic,
And over the years, it's got quicker and quicker
so
because it
quick.
used to be like middle of the afternoon, maybe 2 o'clock when you first started doing Parkrun, because all the results would then get collated by the event team and then go to Parkrun HQ towers, and it took forever to the movement of the data. Now it just seems to be almost instant.
Chris, at a junior run, you literally I go onto my phone and it's got, because when the volunteers have finished working, they just scan a QR code. They don't have to do anything. And that basically enables the upload of the results. So I just tick all the files I want and press next, and the results are done. So I do it before we've even tied it up now.
It's
Fantastic.
amazing.
And I, as you can tell, not technically that competent.
So Tracy, if you can do it,
Exactly. Anyone could do it. Well, certainly anyone under the age of 54.
So if you get your results, they get emailed to you and texted to you. I think you can have
Yeah.
that option, can't you? So what does that show you then? What do the results say?
This is Chris. This is your answer.
You can get you get your finishing position of what you were in the field. It can give you your time. It will also give you any age grade percentages.
What does that mean?
Explain that.
So an age grade percentage is basically the percentage of the world record. I think it is for that age category or your age of your run. So if you're generally really old, you can
Really
score, and you're quite quick.
So rude.
Tracy, I'm still counting you in the young category. So I'm thinking when you're in your 70s, you can be trying to score 80-90% sometimes. I think is usually the highest we tend to see on a park run. Usually I'm around about the 80-ish%, somewhere in the 70 to 80% mark, and then you get some people maybe in the 30-40% mark as well. So it's quite a range, but it gives you a percentage. It gives you an indication of your performance in a different way, rather than just measuring yourself in time, because obviously once potentially you're past your peak, what you want to do is sometimes have an alternative way of measuring your success rather than just the time, because otherwise you might get despondent if you're getting actually slower, but actually you're really getting slower because it's just the way you naturally our evolution forms.
Do you remember
I never
Mary
even look at my
Holmes?
age grading.
So there's a lady that Chris will know called Mary Holmes, who used to
Yes.
run at Cambridge, who I still see occasionally. And she once got the highest age grading in the country
Oh
at
my days.
92%. And
Wow.
how old's Mary? In her 70s, I'm sure.
Yeah, so over the years, I'm just trying to think of some of the high ones we've had before. We've had Jim Stocker at Cambridge. We've had obviously Mary Holmes, Margaret Phillips. A few good runners. Of all different potential ages that have actually tend to be high, and they tend to be higher than the young ones.
Did Margaret start running because her son was a runner?
A little bit, I think, and I think she used to be part of a bit of athletics and doing some form of fitness type of programs and things. But then obviously, mainly took up through competitiveness, I think was the thing driven by his son.
I took up running because of my son, but I'm nowhere near as fast as Margaret.
Tracy, you told me when you first started running, you used to go and run in secret.
So I wanted to be a runner. I'd drive past these people running. I think I want to do that. And I was like, if I was chased by a herd of lions, I'd just get eaten. That would be it. I need to do something. So,
Was that your motivation?
No, I just always wanted to be a runner. I thought it looks good. And then I put on Lycra and I was like, so I went and bought some stuff from Decathlon. Sorry, my imagine there. And I would run around the field next to the house with the dogs. That was 2K over grass. That was quite a long way. That was a lot of walking. And then I started graduating to the road, but I go at 6 o'clock in the morning so no one saw me. And I'd run between 2 telegraph poles and I'd walk between the next two. And I initially just did a kilometre and then I did 2K. And then when I got up to about 4K, I thought I can go and do parkrun. And I allowed myself to walk 4 times over every bridge and a bit afterwards. And I wasn't the last. In fact, I never could have been the last. They have people behind you, volunteers, who are always the tail walkers. So I never would have been last, but I hadn't realised that at the beginning.
So had you heard about Parkrun before? You had that as an end goal, did you? Or
So my son was moving schools and so was going to change his friendship group. And someone had said, and he was good at sports at school at running, but never had the opportunity to do more than 100 meters and was quite small and slight. And so someone had said, go to this thing called Parkrun, he'll like it. So I rocked up one day, and this is very early days, so probably 2001 maybe. And he just ran in 24 minutes. And then the next week he did it in like 23 minutes. And Margaret's son, Jonathan, spoke to him on the way out and said, hey, mate, that was a good run, because there weren't that many people attending in these days. And Angus suddenly was like, oh, this is great. Someone recognises I can do something well. And that's when I kept seeing people running past me as I was watching, I was thinking, I can do that. I really, really can do that as well. And I'll fit in here. So that's why I started.
amazing.
But I'd only heard of it on the grapevine before.
What about you, Chris? You were at the beginning of Cambridge Parkrun, were you?
Yeah, so 2010. I think my first event was actually my mum and my sister actually ran in the real early, about the first 2 or 3 events. I remember Tom Vickery, a fast runner from Cambridge area, came into schools. I was at secondary school at the time, and he came into the triathlon club there. And I remember him talking about, you coming to some event called Parkrun. I was like, no, I'm busy. I do football on Saturdays, etc. But mum and sister went, and I just presumed it was some like race run thing. And then it wasn't actually until I didn't have football that one weekend, and I went along. It was about February, March time, so it was only about probably 6 or 7 events in. And I think it was about 19, 20 minutes. I went round in, and if I look back at photographs now, there's a photograph of me at my first event whilst running. I think there was a photographer there, and I was dressed, in very unrunning type of gear, and going around, but being relatively, for a 15, 16-year-old, relatively quick. And then I just continued to go, and then I was just a bit sort of off and on for a year or 2, and then it was just started to pick up probably during my time at sixth form, and then it becomes a bit of a habit on a Saturday morning to go. And then obviously my dad, who never really ran before, he started to then instead of carrying coats, just watching, he thought he might as well give it a go, because he could see all sorts of different people.
Bit of a common theme there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just going along to watch and then getting sucked into actually running. And
yeah, so he wanted to do it. He thought, well, if all these people can do it, well, so can I. And he did it, and then he's done now about 250 park runs nearly, so just over 60. So it's an opportunity. Obviously he went on to run a couple of marathons as well, which he never, because he couldn't run to the end of the road pretty much before that. So it does get you there, and I think a lot of people, it's the case of you run every Saturday, but what you then do is think, how can I get a bit quicker? I'll just go out for one run in a week. Then one run in a week turns to 2 runs in a week, and before you know it, you're actually running almost every day and getting yourself a lot quicker. So there's lots of opportunities Parkrun brings, I think, for different ways.
I think what's really nice about it is that you can go to Parkrun with people in your family or friends who are at really different paces, and you can all go together and be part of the same event and run your own race or run your own event, and then have a coffee afterwards, and you've all been part of something without without having, well, for me, it's without slowing my other half down too much. He can go and run his 21-minute park run, and I'll see him at the end.
We, on Christmas Day this year, Paul and the children and I went to do Pocket Parkrun in St Neots, and the fastest would have gone round in about, I don't know, 22, 23 minutes. And the slowest was about 50 minutes, I think they were with the tail. And we all just loved it. I mean, we had actually originally said, Paul and I said, maybe we won't do a park run this Christmas Day. Everyone can have a lie in. And the 4 children who, a few years ago, we were having to drag out of bed for it, were absolutely outraged. Like, well, we're going anyway without you. It's like, oh God, we can't be the only 2 that don't go.
So Parkrun Christmas Day and New Year's Day is an interesting one because when it first started, I remember there was Cambridge Parkrun never really ever operated on Christmas Day. I don't think it ever did. I remember the first Christmas Day one was down in Ipswich. So we went from between Cambridge and Newmarket and Hutchison all the way down to Ipswich. We went to Bury, lots of different places, on long journeys, sometimes on Christmas Day, just to do a parkrun. And then on New Year's Day, it became a bit of an obsession for a lot of people to do double. Obviously now they've reduced it down to single, quite rightly, I think, because it was getting a bit of out of hand on New Year's Day, where people were doing quite long commutes in between 2 parkruns, one starting at 9 and one at 10:30, and it became quite an interesting time where people were just trying to get as many parkruns in. It was a bit of a double day.
It's not about that, is it?
No, it's exactly. I think it's about you enjoying running, and obviously without taking it to the be too obsessive about it.
So let's talk a little bit about the local park runs to Cambridge. What are the different options there? Let's talk about Cambridge Parkrun. I know no longer, but we'll talk about it.
Chris, do you want to do that one because you've run there more times than I have?
Yeah, so that is it's a very sad thing to talk about in terms of obviously if someone says Parkrun, it's where I deem it as home of Parkrun on Country Park, because it was always a beautiful place to run, whether or not it was the autumn and leaves falling to the summer, or it was a crisp, cold winter's day and the sun was just the frost across the lake. It was one of those sort of places where it wasn't necessarily about being the quickest, because it wasn't necessarily the quickest course in the world compared to some of the ones which I'm sure Tracy will talk about in a second. But it's one of those ones that it was a real beautiful, friendly place to go. If you were lucky, you might have the smell of the sewers blowing from Milton. So it was always one of those moments where it was fantastic, and I met so many people doing that event. I did well over 200 of my 300 plus events there, and I started off, and there was a small Heidi and John were the 2 event directors in the very early days. It started it there, and they did an absolutely fantastic job of making sure it was also embedded and sustainable in the long term. That I think it was actually almost to their downfall because they worked so hard in making sure that the parkrun was set up for everybody and future event directors in such a brilliant way that it actually meant that it was slightly hard. It was hard. It was a tough time, for them to ensure that they got their own chance to run as well at things. So they sacrificed a lot for everybody else. And then as Parkrun grew, we saw numbers rocket over the years, because it went from just under 100 runners to well about sometimes 500-600 runners going around there, and it really was like a safe place for many people going to Milton Country Park on Saturday morning. Whether or not it was going into Milton Tesco's afterwards for your weekly shop, and just seeing the amount of, it was a muddy day at Parkrun today because you could see the backs of everyone's legs. Or
it was always a muddy day.
Or it was you seeing people as you walked around there, and it was one of those places where you really felt at home running there. And I think no parkrun I've been to has really given me that same feel. But hopefully, obviously, over time, we'll get back to something along those lines there. But yeah, Milton Country Park.
So unfortunately, after lockdown, after COVID restrictions were in place, and we came out of that and Parkrun restarted, so Milton didn't come back on board. But like Tracy, I think as you said before, the nice thing about Cambridge is that it almost birthed so many really passionate volunteers who have then started different parkruns around locally. So we've now got Coldham's Common.
Yeah.
We've got Storiesfield.
Which is Eddington. Most people won't notice Storiesfield. Also, before then, It gave, full-born hospital parkrun. It also gave rise to Huntingdon, which is at
I
Hinchinbrook
didn't
Country
know
Park.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Wimpole. So I remember going to the test event at Wimpole. It was a very snowy test event. There's one at Soham Village College. There will be one at Northstowe at some point. I'm just trying to think. There's just it's seeded out, and then you start filling in the gaps. So Coldham's Common was the first one in Cambridge City, but now we've got Storys Field as well.
And I want to say
And
Ipswich as well, Tracy. Ipswich
I
Royal.
don't know who started Ipswich, so I'm not certain it spawned out of it, but there were. It's sort of it was like the grandparent of parkruns around here, and it spawned lots of the Cambridge Junior Parkrun, which then spawned lots of other junior parkruns, and then it also gave rise to all the other parkruns we now see around, which means that you know, to be honest, you're never very far from a parkrun. Probably 15-20 minutes drive is the furthest you ever are away around here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about junior parkrun, Tracy, because you mentioned it a few times. How does it differ to parkrun?
So parkrun itself, you have to be aged 4 or over, or up to any age to take part, and it's 5 kilometers. And if you're under 11, you have to actually run within arm's reach of your nominated responsible adult, if you can find a responsible adult in your household. And because obviously it's a much bigger course and it can be around lakes and water and stuff like this. Whereas junior parkrun is designed to get the young Chris's of this world into running and to encourage their confidence and their independence. So it's only 2 kilometers, and you have to be aged between 4 and 14. So you can, once you get to 15, you stop running junior parkrun, but you can carry on volunteering, and it's only 2 kilometers. So Milton Country Park has got one which is just 2 laps of a smaller area near the start, not round the lakes. And Coldham's Common has got one, and we're starting one in Cottenham in the next couple of 3 months or something like this. And they tend to be smaller. You have fewer people that run them, so you tend to get usually about 60 runners, although Ely started one 2 weeks ago and they had 150 or something on the second event.
Do adults run as well? Do they
So
run
you
with
can
their
run
kids?
with your children or not. You don't get a time and you don't go through the finish funnel. So if your children need you to run with them while they're building up their confidence, and often on their first few runs they do, then run alongside them. But actually you'll find very quickly that you are slowing them down unless you're very fast. And at which point it's best to let them go and do it themselves, and say you're going to volunteer and either as a marshal or someone at the finish, because it's really building up their can-do attitude and their ability to actually go out there and do that, because it's a long way, 2 kilometers. And actually when you're out in the field after, say it's a 2-lapper and you're half a kilometer away from the finish, it can feel a bit lonely, and there's lots of marshals around, there's other people running, but actually it's really good for you to realize actually you can do that on your own. Because if you can do junior parkrun, then you realize that there are some things in the rest of your life that maybe you didn't think you could do, but you can go and do.
I feel like I've learned that lesson from Coldham's Common Parkrun.
Yes.
When I'm on the second lap going, if I can do this, I can do anything.
My target is always not to try and not get lapped at Coldham's Common. It's quite a struggle though. I never not got lapped at Storys because it's 3 laps. Yeah. So I just wave to them when they run past, go, hi, nice to see you, Chris.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's what makes parkrun really quite special, is that a lot of courses are multiple laps, and you get, you know, the Chris's of the parkrun, you know, the fast people finishing, you know, lapping you, maybe twice sometimes, but it's so friendly, isn't it? You know, it's a nice, everyone is cheering everyone else on.
Yeah, everyone is so supportive, and it's the only place where in a sporting environment you can actually mix with people who have significantly different abilities to you on the same level. There's no differential. You know, the people that go around fast recognize that actually if it's taking you 60 minutes, it's still a 5 kilometer race you're doing. It's actually harder for you than it is for them, and they'll just be really, really supportive. And I wouldn't normally be friends with Chris. I wouldn't know Chris because we're very different ages, and we're very different speeds. I don't know anything about football, but actually I know him well, and that's a really enriching thing to know lots of people from very different backgrounds and generations, and you're just all wearing lycra or running stuff, and people just don't judge you in the same way that they will do in almost any other sphere of life. So It's that inclusivity that I love.
Everyone is very friendly, aren't they? You know, at the beginning, everyone's chatting away, and if you don't know anyone at a park run, I went to do Crane Park run on Christmas Day. Didn't know anyone around, but everyone was so friendly. Someone handed me a prosecco and a mince pie at the end.
Oh,
Never met them before.
nice. We'll
But
all be
yeah,
off
it's
to
very,
Crane
very
Park.
inclusive.
Yeah.
Crane Park, good one.
But it is just genuinely, people just seem happy to be there and just seem friendly. It's lovely.
It's good. But it doesn't just happen, does it, Parkrun? It does not just happen. What is involved in the organisation? Who organises it? You've spoken about volunteers. Let's talk a bit more about that.
So each event has a team of volunteers that sort of form the core team. So they will be often the people who started the event and the people who are run directors on the day, which is the person who's in charge on the day. So they have the ultimate sort of say so about whether, for example, say a tree's fallen down, they just say, right, the run's off or the run's on or whatever. And there's usually probably 10, a dozen of those for each event. But then every single event probably takes 20 minimum volunteers to put it on. So someone like Chris will probably run, I don't know, 9 times, and on his 10th time he'll volunteer. So Chris has run directed many times at Cambridge. He's probably done every job there is, isn't there? Haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, I've done just over 100 volunteers at different parkrun events. I think that's something like 30-ish times I've been a run director. That and include a few times at junior parkrun, but yeah, mainly at the the 5K event at Milton Country Park. There and
so what are the other types of roles? So you've got obviously run director, the person in charge on the day. What other
barcode
things?
scanning is always a favourite of mine. In the I think I was the I still claim I'm sure I'm the instigator. I think along with Heidi's idea of me scanning after running. I think I set that trend where you could obviously run around and then you could obviously scan the barcodes. Timekeeping is obviously an important one. We usually have 2 timekeepers.
Do you want to explain why they have to, Chris?
2 timekeepers, just in case. I'm thinking back now to when Parkrun first started in Cambridge. We used to carry this big box thing, and it used to and it'd have this button on it, and people had to press the button, and it was a huge, great, big, heavy box, and it was a real weird. It wasn't a stopwatch, as anyone would know it, and that was the timer. Now we've down to going from stopwatches now down to phones doing the timing, but there's 2 timekeepers just to ensure if there's any.
So if one of them goes wrong, you can use the other one. And Chris and I have both been at events where both timekeepers have had a problem, and we just go, what the heck? We'll give everyone the same time. So I've run one run with Chris where he got 59.59 time, and so did I. I was equal with him. It's the only time, obviously.
Yeah, and finish tokens are someone that's standing at the end of the funnel, giving out finish tokens to the runners as they come through the finishing funnel. Numbers checker to ensure the timekeeper matches the finish tokens person, just to make sure that, because sometimes you get some people ducking out of tunnels, or it's easy to, on the stopwatch occasionally just to double click. You've also got people that sort the tokens at the end, so it's ready for next week. So when you turn up on Saturday morning the following week, it's all ready to go, because what you don't want is a last, the number 1 placing to be mixed in with the 150 mark.
Usually the entry level position though is a marshal.
Yes,
where
absolutely.
You just stand there and you clap and you encourage people, and you're just the eyes and ears on the course to make sure people don't go wrong. They don't leave the course when they shouldn't do and they don't want to. And that's just easy. And all of these roles are so easy that at all the events I do, we have Duke of Edinburgh students, 14, 15, who do every single one of these roles.
I think that's a really good point. If you're interested, if you're listening here and you've got people that are interested in supporting local community for any reason they can't run or participate, or they are at Duke of Edinburgh and they're wanting to do some volunteering, it's a fantastic way, an opportunity to tick it off. As a secondary school teacher myself, obviously, I encourage some students to come and do that, and it's something I'm looking at to set up a parkrun at the school for that purpose, so the students can tick that off, as a great opportunity for them to do something good, as well as and learn those skills as well as participating in what they're doing.
And
think
quite a
that,
lot of those roles you can do as well as running, can't you? So you can run your park run and volunteer in some way as well.
yeah, probably about a quarter of the roles you can do that.
So
But
signage and things like that. Yeah.
volunteering is just has huge amounts of research has gone into saying, looking at it and saying it's so good for you. It's just really, really good for your mental health because you feel like you're giving something back, you're developing a skill and you're forming friendships with other people. And actually, at the moment, we all need those things a bit. We've all been a bit disconnected. And we have people who come to parkruns who never run. One of the local parkrun ambassadors now started off just volunteering. She'd had an injury and she's only, I think recently, probably after 300 or 400 volunteers, had adaptations to her shoe that means that she can now run. And she's started many park runs. And it's just really, it's a good thing to do. People often say about giving up your run to volunteer. And I would say, well, sometimes you give up your volunteer to run. Because you get I mean, I got a husband from mine.
Is that advertised on the website, Tracy?
No, but I'm available for. I think we should have dating with Parkrun. I'll do the park dating chat thing.
Okay.
What's one of the biggest skills that I think I learned from parkrun volunteering was something that I've taken into my job is public speaking. When there was a Cambridge Parkrun, when you're in a run director and you've got maybe up 500-600 people there, and you're trying to make sure you don't sound timid, and you really give it the opportunity to give it some welly to really get people infused and want to run at the event just before, and finding those different ways to make sure you're publicly speaking and trying to avoid the ums and the ahs as you're talking and all those different things.
You were doing it when you were sort of 17, 18, weren't you? And you were brilliant. I mean, you still are brilliant, but we were all so impressed because actually standing up in front of 500 people and telling them what to do, what's going to happen, takes quite a lot of courage. And actually, I'm sure going into the career you've gone into, that must be enormously helpful.
Absolutely. And if you go into an assembly now and talking in front of a whole year group or part of the school, it's you're not phased by it. Talking in front of those people because you've talked to lots of people at parkrun you've never met before. Sometimes it's easier when you haven't met them, but potentially your biggest critics of your parents or whatever, and are watching, and I'm sure they'll tell you if you're not word perfect at the end when you come there. But it's also making sure people you leave the event with a smile on their face and had a good time overall. And sometimes that's not always easy to do because when you go around the country, you see lots of different speeches take place at the start, and some you can see are very, very nervous, and some people are more natural to it. But you don't have to do those jobs, but it's something you might grow into, and certainly if you want to learn how to do that, there's opportunities there to do it in a quite a low pressure environment, because if you don't quite get it right, there's always next week.
Chris also, before we finish, there's one thing he said to me years ago, he probably doesn't even remember now, which really struck a chord. And it was at a time when we had a few youngsters at a junior parkrun who were very concerned about how quick they could run. They wanted to be really quick. And he said, parkrun was the thing that taught me that running isn't all about being quick. You can get other things from it. I think that's what if you just remember that one simple thing, then that means that you'll enjoy it and you'll do well at it.
And that's very true with parkrun. It's not about the running, is it? It's about the community and the coffee afterwards, and that might be the only time you speak to someone that weekend, or whatever it is. It's about everything else that parkrun brings, and not the 5K run in itself. I don't think you don't have to run though, do you? Because that's something we haven't spoke about.
No, you don't have to run. Got tail walkers, and plenty of people walk. You can walk slowly, you can walk medium pace. We have people who can walk faster than I can run. It's quite depressing. They don't even look like they're trying. But no, definitely when you first start, if you're not a runner, plan to walk some of it, if not all of it. It's quite normal to do that. Lots of people. So we will run an event on the last Saturday of each month at Coldham's Common, which is for cancer survivors and those going through a cancer journey. And they will often just walk around, just nattering, having a wonderful time. And actually, that walk has done everyone a huge amount of good. If we all got out and walked 5 kilometers every day, we'd be healthier for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so if somebody wants to find out more about volunteering, what's the best thing? Where should they go?
If they look at the web page of the course they want to volunteer at, so for example, Stories Field, there'll be a click-through link to an email, and you can just say, I'm interested in volunteering, and someone will get back to you and help you. Or at the event, just go up to the run director, not just when they're speaking to 300 people, but practically any other time, and they'll be there for a good 45 minutes or an hour before. They'll be there till, because it will take several people, it'll take an hour to finish the course. So they'll be there for a long time afterwards. Go and speak to them, or the volunteer coordinator, say, I think I'm interested in volunteering. What can I do? And they will help you. They'll ask you what you're familiar with. Everyone has their own skills. I like marshalling because I'm quite chatty. We have some Duke of Edinburgh volunteers who are very good at numerical and computer tasks, but are very shy. They're brilliant at timekeeping.
Mhm.
There's something to suit whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable doing, there will be something that suits you.
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks both. I think that's really given a nice insight into Parkrun and how people can get involved. If there's one piece of advice, I've got two last questions. One word that encapsulates Parkrun for you both. Only one word. I know, Tracy, that's a struggle for you.
Inclusive.
Inclusive.
I'm going to go opportunities. Opportunities.
Lovely. And my last question, I have remembered. One piece of advice for people somebody who's not done it before, and is thinking about coming along.
I'm going to go. You're going to go just do it. I'll go a little bit longer than that. It's everyone's got to start somewhere. So in which case, there's no better time to start than now. And it gets easier. It might be hard, but as sometimes the tough times don't last. But if you keep going, you will get there. And you'll get you to whatever goal you want to achieve. Anything is possible if you believe and you want to do it enough. If you get there, everyone's there to support and help. You get to your end goal, whether or not that's just to complete the 5K, or if you've got bigger targets in mind, whether it's to go and run a marathon, half marathon for charity, all different things. People have different objectives, or it might be you're young and you're listening and you want to become a young Olympian in time. You've got to start somewhere, and it's a great opportunity to do that.
I'd say you can break it down into little goals as well. So just register. Print your barcode, research your local run, decide which one you're going to and how long it's going to take you to get there and where you're going to park, or how you're going to get if you're going to walk or bike. And then just put your Lycra out the night before. Doesn't have to be anything flash. Anything that's, I've seen people very fast wearing decorator clothes, what I would call decorator clothes, not stretchy at all. Just put out something that you can move in, get dressed in it, and just take it one little step at a time. And before you know it, you'll go through that finish funnel.
And just on that point, when I'm teaching at school, and sometimes students come up to you, so I don't think I can do PE today. I don't feel too good, or or this or that reason, excuse come out, and I go, have you got your PE kit? And I go, and they go, yeah, I've got my PE kit. Okay, right, go and put your PE kit on, and then do what you can in the lesson. If you're not feeling too good, just sit out. 9 times out of 10, even not more, they'll just do the lesson. They'll have forgotten their excuse because they've got their PE kit on. So in which case, again, if you just come, as long as you're not in a shirt and tie, well, we have had people in a shirt and tie running around. You'll be fine. You'll fit in, and I'm sure you'll love it.
So just put your PE kit on. That's your advice. Chris.
Yeah, that's it. Put it out the night before.
Yeah. And Tracy, I really like what you said earlier about just going along to watch, because it's there's loads of people who do that, don't they? They might be injured, or maybe don't want to run that week, or they're supporting somebody and they're just there, and it's completely normal, isn't it, to go and watch?
So the people clapping actually make a massive difference. Every event will have lots of supporters because it's friends, family, younger, older, as you say, people who aren't up for running that day. If you don't feel like running, just going out, standing in a park and clapping your friends go around will actually make you feel much better.
Yeah.
And if you're a photographer, you could marshal and photograph, be a photographer at the same time. And, it means you get your hobby in of, photography. Because I know, your husband, Paul, Tracy, when he first started coming to Cambridge Parkrun, he was, a keen photographer at the event. And obviously then that, encourage, obviously him to keep coming every week, because obviously it's a reason to come, because you want to get the best shot of people running by.
God, there's a job for everyone, isn't there?
There is. Not that we're at all evangelical over it. Danny, you haven't said that. So parkruns around here are always at 9 o'clock on a Saturday. Scotland
Yes.
and I think Ireland.
Ireland's 9:30, isn't it?
9:30, yes. But junior parkruns are always on Sundays at 9
Sundays.
o'clock.
Yes. Brilliant. So go to the website, which is displayed on the screen here, parkrun.org.uk, to register, get your barcode, and then I said that bit is done, and you can go and enjoy the fun bit and the coffee and cake afterwards.
And if you see me, come and say hello. I like to talk to anyone.
Where will you be this Saturday?
I think we're at Stories this Saturday, because Paul's one of the event directors. We didn't do a parkrun last Saturday because we were away. I know.
It's okay.
I know. I think it's good sometimes to break the habit intentionally.
Definitely. Chris, what about you? Are you
I've
parkrunning
had a
this
little break
weekend?
from Parkrun recently, but I think I might be. I might go to Storiesfield on Saturday. I've just come back from injury, but even then, I just since the news of Cambridge Parkrun not restarting, it took a little while, so I just sort of tried to hop around a few different events.
Where are you going to settle?
So I don't know where I'm going to actually settle, but I think I'm going to go to. I might go to Storiesfield to see a few more regulars there from my back in the day in Cambridge. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks both for your time this evening. I'm sure you've inspired a few people to
Thank you,
start
Danny.
Parkrun on Saturday.
Thank you.